Hey, I'm Courtney Waterman, your tutor. Lover of anime, manga, and math. And you just tuned into another session of Tutor Me Sempai. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're jumping into a 7th grade topic, dividing negative fractions. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'll be putting time codes in for this video in the description box below, so use that to skip ahead to whatever part of the video you think is most interesting. As always, if you have any questions about what we see today, or even your own homework, you can always put it in the comment box below, or visit me on my Facebook page at Tutor Me Sempai and tell me all about it there. At the end of this video, I'll be linking my 7th grade playlist, in which I cover a lot more topics, so if you're interested in that, make sure you stay tuned. This video will have 2 examples, so leave a like, smash subscribe, and let's get started. So in order to divide our negative fractions, we need to know how to do 2 things. The first is, we need to know how to multiply and divide negative numbers. The second is, we need to know how to divide our regular fractions. If you have any questions about any one of those 2 topics, or just need a refresher, no worries. I have a video for each topic, and you can find it right up here, or if not, I'll have a link to both of them in my description box below. Check it out as you need it. Let's say you have a pretty good grasp on both topics. Putting them together in order to divide our negative fractions shouldn't be too difficult. So here we have an example. Negative 3/5 divided by negative 9/20. And we want to find out what is this answer. So at its core, we're simply dividing fractions. The negative doesn't really change the math that we do. That just changes what the sign is for the final result. So the math is going to be all the same for dividing your fractions. So let's start there. What do we have to do in order to divide these 2 fractions? Well, remember, in order to divide these 2 fractions, you have to rewrite this. And our shortcut for rewriting is keep this, so it's going to be negative 3/5, change that, so the opposite of division, we're going to have our multiplication, and we're going to change this, use its reciprocal, so it's going to be 20 over negative 9. And that was just the trick of keep, change, change. Keep the first, change the second, change the third. That's how we can easily rewrite this in order to effectively divide fractions. Now you know you can just multiply across. So you're going to get negative 60, right? Negative 3 times the 20, negative 60. And we're going to have 5 times negative 9, which is going to be a negative 45. Now, when you get to this point, it's probably best that you simplify your answer. So 60 over 45 can be simplified. And that's going to be what? Well, 15 goes into the top how many times? 4. 15 goes into the bottom how many times? 3. And notice we have some negatives here. Now remember, I said the negatives don't really change the math, but it will tell you what your final sign is going to be for your final answer. And we should know that whenever we have 2 negatives either being multiplied against each other or divided by each other, we're going to get a positive. Remember, negative times negative gives you a positive, negative divided by negative gives you a positive, but whenever you have that mix, that's when your final result is going to be a negative. So whenever you have a negative and a positive, or a positive and a negative, your end result will be negative. However, we don't have that. We have a negative number divided by another negative number, 2 negatives. So our final result is going to be positive. Now you can find out the sign of your answer either before you do all your work or after you do all your work. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the math at all. If you were to do it beforehand, you will see that we have 2 negatives here. And remember, 2 negatives either being multiplied or divided against each other is going to result in a positive answer. So you can essentially erase these because this is going to be the same as if they were both positive. So it doesn't matter if you do it first or you do it last, as long as you're doing it correctly. But let's look at one more example in which we have a little bit more negatives to work with. Let's say we have a question like this. We have a negative 6 over a negative 7 divided by a negative 18 over a positive 14. And we want to know what the answer to this question is. Now we have a lot of negatives here. However, we can easily find out what our end sign is going to be by looking at just how many negatives there are. All you have to do is count your negatives. We have 1, 2, 3 negatives. So 3 negatives means what? That means we're going to have a pair of negatives, and we're going to have 1 left over. And remember, every pair of negatives, whenever you're multiplying and dividing, makes you a positive. So we don't have to worry about that. but we do have one negative that's left over. So that tells us that our answer is going to be negative. So without having to do a bunch of work, you can figure out what your end sign is going to be just by simply counting how many negatives you have here. So we know our answer is going to end up with a negative sign. So I'm just going to write that down here. Let's actually do the division now. Here we have -6 over -7. And remember, we keep this. So whatever it is, we're going to keep it. This is our keep. This one we're changing. This is part of our process. Keep, change, change. Or if you've heard keep, flip, flip, it's the same thing. Keep, change, change means we're going to change this sign to its opposite. So we're going to multiply now. And we're going to change this one, our third part, and we're going to flip it to its reciprocal. So the 14 goes on top, and the 18, that's negative, goes on the bottom. Now, if you're lazy like I am, I don't want to have to multiply all this across and then do my simplification later. So I'm going to do it right now. I know that this is going to equal -6 times 14 over -7 times -18. And our equals negative something should be up there now. So we know that 6 is going to simplify with this 18 here, right? We have these in their own parentheses because it's multiplied together. So don't get confused. They're in their own parentheses. We just kind of put them all together. That 6 is going to cancel out with this 18, and we're just going to have a 3 left over. It's going to be a 3 in the bottom, right? 6 goes into 18 3 times. And this 14 is going to make this 7 cancel out, and we're going to have a 2 up top, right? So this is a 1, that's a 1, this becomes a 2, and this is a 3, which leaves us with a 2/3. However, this is supposed to be what? A positive 2/3? No. Our answer is supposed to have a negative, right? So this is going to be a negative 2/3. And you can see it. We have a negative top times a positive, so that's going to give us a negative. And we have 2 negatives in the bottom, which gives us a positive. So overall, we have 1 negative left over. So our answer for this one is going to be -2/3. Now, before I go, if the simplification confused you, you can always just do your multiplication. I was just a little bit lazy, but you can always do the multiplication because that's not going to fail you as long as you do it correctly. 6 times 14 is going to give us an 84. 7 times an 18 is going to give us 126. And remember, we have our negatives here, right? So it's negative times a positive gives us a negative. This negative times a negative gives us a positive. So this is a -84 over 126. Now 42 goes into both of these. It goes into 84 2 times, and it goes into 126 3 times, which gives us a final answer of -2/3 when you simplify it. So if my earlier simplification steps confuse you, make sure that you stay true to the work that you're normally used to doing and multiply across, and then simplify later. So I hope you were able to follow along with today's examples, and I hope you now know how you can divide your negative fraction. However, if you have any questions about what we saw today, or even your own homework, remember you can always put in the comment box below, or visit me on my Facebook page at Tutor Me Sempai and tell me all about it there. If you haven't done so already, remember to leave a like. It really helps the channel by letting YouTube know that you found this video helpful. And if you found the video helpful, so can someone else. So leave a like, hit the notification bell, smash the subscribe button, and share this video with a friend. Well, that's all the time I have for today. I'm really hoping this helped with your homework, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Courtney, this is your playlist, and this has been another session of Tutor Me Sempai.